Have you ever heard someone say, eat more vegetables, they are always good for you? It sounds simple and true, yet here is a surprising question few people over the age of 60 ever ask. Are all vegetables truly safe for an aging body? Because the truth is, for certain individuals, the wrong kind of vegetable or even the right vegetable eaten at the wrong time or in the wrong context can shift blood pressure, alter blood thickness, and quietly increase the risk of a stroke overnight. Now, that does not mean vegetables are the enemy. Far from it. Vegetables remain some of the most protective foods on earth. But what I want to show you today is that as we age, our physiology changes, our arteries stiffen, our kidneys slow down, our gut microbiome loses diversity, and our liver becomes less efficient at processing certain plant compounds. A vegetable that supported heart health in your 40s might not behave the same way in your 60s. And understanding why is the key to preventing vascular events like stroke, which remains one of the top 3 causes of death worldwide for people past midlife. So here is what we will explore in this session. First, we will look at the vegetables that can unexpectedly raise stroke risk in certain older adults, not because they are bad, but because of how they interact with aging metabolism, medications, and blood chemistry. Then, we will unpack the science. How compounds like oxalates, nitrates, lectins, and vitamin K interact with your blood vessels, clotting factors, and blood pressure. Next, we will discuss who is at risk and how to safely eat for protection rather than danger. Finally, I will give you clear food swaps, preparation techniques, and timing strategies so you can keep your circulation clean, your arteries flexible, and your brain protected. Before we dive in, let me explain why this conversation matters. Every single day, thousands of older adults follow health advice that was designed for a younger metabolism. They load up on spinach smoothies, beetroot juice, or kale salads, without realizing that their kidneys, their medications, or their blood vessels are no longer processing those compounds in the same way. The result is silent electrolyte imbalances, calcium buildup, thickened blood until one day it is not silent anymore. But here is the empowering truth. When you understand the root physiology, you gain control again. Food becomes precision medicine. You do not have to fear vegetables, you simply have to know how to use them wisely for your stage of life. If you find this approach helpful, consider subscribing because I post research-based videos like this every week to help you optimize your metabolism, energy, and longevity naturally. Here is what most people never realize about their favorite leafy greens. The same spinach smoothie that feels like a health elixir in your 40s can quietly raise your stroke risk in your 60s if your kidneys are slowing down or your vascular system is already under stress. The reason lies in a compound called oxalate. Oxalates are natural molecules found in many vegetables, especially spinach, beet greens, Swiss chard, rhubarb, and almonds. They bind to minerals like calcium, forming tiny crystals that your kidneys must filter out. In younger, healthy kidneys, this process is smooth. But as we age, kidney filtration efficiency naturally declines. Combine that with mild dehydration, common medications, and slower mineral metabolism, and oxalates can begin to build up. Imagine your blood vessels as soft, flexible garden hoses. When oxalate crystals accumulate in the bloodstream and tissues, they can act like microscopic sandpaper, irritating the lining of your arteries, what we call the endothelium. This irritation triggers inflammation, and inflammation stiffens arteries. Over time, those stiffened arteries increase blood pressure, and higher pressure means more force against vessel walls, setting the stage for a clot or stroke. Research in older adults shows that chronic oxalate overload can also disrupt calcium balance. The calcium that should be nourishing your bones can end up deposited in arteries instead. This is one reason why some older individuals develop calcified arteries despite taking calcium supplements. It is not always the calcium that is the problem, but rather where it ends up going. Now, here's the good news. You do not need to give up your greens. You simply need to outsmart the oxalates. The first strategy is cooking. Boiling spinach or beet greens and discarding the water removes nearly half of the oxalates. The second is pairing eating oxalate-rich foods with calcium-rich ones such as sardines, yogurt, or tahini. The calcium binds the oxalate in the gut before it can enter your bloodstream. The third strategy is rotation. Instead of eating spinach daily, alternate with lower oxalate greens like kale, bok choy, or romaine. Also, remember hydration. Kidneys rely on steady water flow to flush out these compounds. If you are over 60, aim to sip water consistently throughout the day rather than gulping it all at once. Think of it as keeping a gentle river moving through your filtration system. And finally, be cautious with green powders and blended smoothies. When you blend raw spinach or beet leaves, you release and concentrate oxalates that would have otherwise stayed bound to fiber. For a younger body, that is often fine. For an aging metabolism, it can overwhelm filtration capacity. So the takeaway is not to fear plants, but to respect their chemistry. In the right balance and preparation, they heal. In the wrong context, they can harm. When you understand that, food stops being random, it becomes precise medicine. If this insight is making sense so far, consider subscribing, because in upcoming sections we will uncover more hidden food and physiology interactions that can transform your vascular health after 60. Let us talk about one of the most misunderstood food groups in cardiovascular health, nitrate-rich vegetables. These include beets, arugula, celery, and spinach. They have been celebrated for their ability to lower blood pressure, improve endurance, and enhance nitric oxide production, a molecule that keeps blood vessels open and flexible. But here is the twist. In older adults, especially those with chronic inflammation or certain medical conditions, these same vegetables can occasionally become problematic, even dangerous, if not used wisely. To understand this, let us look at what is really happening inside your body. When you eat nitrate-rich vegetables, those nitrates are converted by bacteria in your mouth and gut into nitric oxide. Think of nitric oxide as your blood vessel's relaxation signal. It tells your arteries to open up, improving circulation and reducing pressure. That is wonderful when your body is balanced and your metabolism is efficient. However, in older adults, things change. Chronic inflammation, poor oral microbiome health, and reduced kidney function can interfere with this delicate nitrate to nitric oxide pathway. Instead of smooth vessel dilation, your body can experience erratic blood pressure swings. For someone already on blood pressure medications or nitrates for heart disease, that can lead to sudden dizziness, weakness, or even fainting. There is also another layer to this story. Many older adults experience reduced stomach acid, often due to acid-suppressing medications. When stomach acid is low, nitrates from vegetables can convert into nitrites and then into nitrosamines compounds that may stress the vascular system if produced in excess. This is especially relevant when processed meats, poor gut health, or oxidative stress are present. So, what is the solution? First, balance is everything. Instead of drinking large amounts of beet juice or nitrate shots, which can spike nitric oxide production suddenly, consume these vegetables as part of a meal. For example, pair roasted beets with olive oil, herbs, and a source of antioxidants such as garlic or lemon. The polyphenols in these foods help stabilize nitric oxide and prevent harmful byproducts. Second, pay attention to your mouth microbiome. Avoid using antiseptic mouthwash daily, as it destroys the very bacteria that convert dietary nitrates into beneficial nitric oxide. Older adults who use mouthwash excessively can unknowingly lose this natural blood pressure regulation system. Third, consistency beats intensity. A small serving of nitrate-rich vegetables daily supports vascular elasticity far better than occasional large doses. Think of it like keeping a steady rhythm rather than occasional bursts. And lastly, test and track. If you are on blood pressure or heart medications, monitor your readings carefully when introducing nitrate-rich vegetables or juices. If your pressure drops too quickly or you feel lightheaded, reduce the amount or discuss timing with your healthcare professional. The key idea is this: nitrates are neither heroes nor villains, they are tools. In a young, resilient metabolism, they expand performance. In an aging one, they require precision. Used wisely, they can still be among your most powerful allies for brain and heart protection. There is a moment that happens in many doctors' offices around the world. A patient, often in their 60s or 70s, sits down proudly and says, "Doctor, I have been eating more kale and spinach because I heard they are good for my heart." The doctor smiles, looks at their chart, and then says carefully, "That is good, but we need to watch your blood thinner levels." This is what I call the vitamin K paradox. Vitamin K is essential for health. It helps your body use calcium properly, strengthens bones, and supports vascular flexibility by preventing calcium from depositing in artery walls. Without enough vitamin K, arteries stiffen, blood vessels become fragile, and the risk of stroke actually increases. So why would eating greens rich in vitamin K ever be a problem? The answer lies in the complex relationship between food and medication. If you are taking blood thinners, such as warfarin, your medication works by blocking vitamin K's role in blood clotting. This keeps your blood from becoming too thick and reduces the chance of forming a clot that could cause a stroke. But when you suddenly increase or decrease vitamin K intake by eating more or fewer greens, it changes how your medication works. A sudden spike in kale or spinach can make the drug less effective, while cutting them out entirely can make your blood too thin. Either extreme can increase stroke risk overnight. Here is the physiology behind it. Vitamin K acts like a switch for clotting proteins. Warfarin keeps that switch in the off position, so blood remains fluid. But when more vitamin K enters the bloodstream, it flips some of those switches back on, leading to more clotting potential. That is why stability, not elimination, is the real goal. Your body needs vitamin K for vascular protection. It just needs it in a consistent amount so your medication can be balanced properly. So, what should you do? First, never avoid greens entirely. That can create its own danger. Instead, eat a steady, predictable portion daily. For example, one small serving of cooked greens each day provides stability for both your body and your medication levels. Second, communicate with your healthcare professional. Let them know your typical diet so they can adjust your dose precisely rather than react to sudden changes. Third, choose variety. Not all greens are equally high in vitamin K. While kale and spinach are dense sources, lettuces, cabbage, and broccoli contain moderate levels, allowing for balance without complete restriction. And finally, remember that vitamin K works best when supported by magnesium and vitamin D. Together, they direct calcium to your bones instead of your arteries, one of the most powerful anti-stroke combinations you can achieve through nutrition. So the paradox is simple yet profound. The very greens that could save your arteries can also interfere with your medications if your intake fluctuates. Stability turns conflict into harmony. When you manage this balance, you get the best of both worlds, a well-regulated clotting system and arteries that stay young for decades. If you are finding this level of science-made simple explanation valuable, consider subscribing, because what comes next might surprise you. When most people think of inflammation, they picture sugar, fried foods, or processed oils. Rarely does anyone think of tomatoes, peppers, or eggplants. Yet for a growing number of older adults with sensitive digestion or autoimmune conditions, these common vegetables can quietly trigger inflammation that affects not only the gut, but also the blood vessels. The culprit behind this hidden reaction is a group of natural plant compounds called lectins. Lectins are proteins plants use as a defense mechanism. In nature, they help protect the plant from pests and pathogens. In the human body, however, lectins can attach to the lining of the gut, especially if that lining has already been weakened by age, medication, or chronic stress. Over time, this irritation can increase intestinal permeability, often called a leaky gut. Once that happens, inflammatory molecules can enter the bloodstream, triggering immune responses that stiffen blood vessels and elevate clotting factors. This chain reaction may not cause symptoms immediately, but over months or years it contributes to the chronic vascular inflammation that underlies many strokes and heart attacks. Now, it is important to clarify that lectins are not inherently toxic. In small amounts and in a healthy gut, your body can handle them easily. The issue arises when gut integrity is already compromised, which is increasingly common after 60 due to reduced stomach acid, enzyme decline, or medication use, such as non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. Here is the physiology behind it. Your intestinal lining is a single layer of cells held together by tiny protein gates, called tight junctions. Lectins can disturb those gates, allowing immune cells to see food particles they normally would not. The immune system then overreacts, releasing cytokines, the same molecules involved in arterial inflammation and clot formation. This explains why gut health and vascular health are inseparable. So, how do we minimize lectin-related inflammation without giving up nutrient-rich vegetables? The answer is preparation and balance. Cooking destroys most lectins. Boiling, pressure cooking or roasting significantly reduces their levels. For instance, pressure-cooked beans and lentils are safe and even beneficial because the heat neutralizes the lectins while preserving fiber and minerals. Removing seeds and skins from tomatoes or peppers also lowers lectin exposure. Another strategy is to strengthen your gut barrier. This means emphasizing collagen-rich foods like bone broth, fermented vegetables for probiotics, and nutrients such as zinc and L-glutamine that help repair the intestinal lining. When your gut barrier is strong, lectins lose their power to harm. Finally, listen to your body. If you notice joint stiffness, bloating, or fatigue after eating certain nightshades, try a short elimination period and reintroduce them later. The goal is not permanent restriction, but intelligent observation. The larger message here is this: inflammation is not random. It begins in places we often overlook: the gut, the liver, the blood vessel wall. Once you identify and remove the subtle triggers, the entire body calms. Your circulation improves, your blood pressure stabilizes, and your energy returns. In the next section, we will explore another subtle but powerful influence on vascular health: how the balance of electrolytes in high-mineral vegetables can either protect your heart or strain it, depending on your age and medication status. For most of life, we are told to eat more potassium-rich foods because they help control blood pressure and support heart health. And that advice is true, but only part of the story. After 60, the way your body manages minerals like potassium, sodium, magnesium, and calcium changes dramatically. The kidneys, which once filtered excess minerals easily, begin to slow. Hormonal changes affect how your body holds water, and the medications many older adults take, particularly for blood pressure or heart failure, can amplify or distort these mineral balances. Suddenly, vegetables that once lowered your stroke risk can begin to raise it. Let us start with potassium, the mineral found in abundance in vegetables such as beet greens, spinach, Swiss chard, and avocados. Potassium's main job is to keep electrical activity in your heart and muscles steady. But here is the hidden risk. If you are taking medications such as ACE inhibitors, angiotensin receptor blockers, or potassium-sparing diuretics, your kidneys cannot excrete potassium efficiently. When too much builds up, it can disrupt your heart's rhythm, leading to palpitations, weakness, or in extreme cases, cardiac arrest. This condition, known as hyperkalemia, often develops silently until it becomes an emergency. Now, on the opposite side is sodium. Many older adults become overly restrictive with salt, fearing high blood pressure. But when sodium drops too low, especially during hot weather, fasting, or after heavy sweating, blood pressure can fall sharply. The brain and kidneys then receive less blood flow, increasing the risk of fainting or ischemic episodes. Balance is the key, not elimination. Magnesium adds another layer to this story. It relaxes blood vessels, supports regular heartbeat, and helps regulate calcium flow. However, diets lacking magnesium or medications like proton pump inhibitors can create deficiencies that make arteries more reactive and blood pressure less stable. Magnesium-rich vegetables such as leafy greens and pumpkin seeds are vital, but again, moderation and variety matter more than intensity. So how do we navigate this complex mineral equation safely? First, know your numbers. A simple blood test can reveal kidney function and electrolyte balance. If your filtration rate is reduced, avoid high potassium juices and smoothies. Eat whole foods where fiber slows mineral absorption instead. Second, rotate your greens. Instead of eating spinach or beet greens daily, mix in lettuces, zucchini, green beans, and cabbage. These still provide minerals, but in gentler amounts. Third, use natural pairings that help regulate absorption. For instance, pairing potassium-rich foods with healthy fats like olive oil or avocado oil slows entry into the bloodstream. Adding lemon or vinegar can enhance mineral balance and digestion. Here is a truth that functional medicine keeps revealing again and again. It is not only what you eat that matters, it is how you prepare it, when you eat it, and what you combine it with. This is the preparation paradox. The same vegetable can either protect your arteries or quietly add stress to them depending on how it enters your system. Let us begin with cooking methods. When you boil, steam, or lightly sauté vegetables, you change their chemistry. Boiling spinach or beet greens removes a large portion of oxalates. Steaming cruciferous vegetables like broccoli or kale reduces goitrogens that can affect thyroid function, while preserving antioxidants that protect your blood vessels. On the other hand, Eating certain vegetables raw or juiced, especially in large amounts, can create an overload of active compounds that your aging kidneys and liver must process all at once. Think of your digestive system as a processing plant. In your 20s and 30s, that plant runs at full capacity, breaking down and filtering efficiently. By the time you reach your 60s, the machinery is still capable, but it needs smoother input. Cooked foods are easier to digest, freeing your energy for repair rather than heavy processing. Next comes timing. The body's vascular and metabolic systems follow circadian rhythms. Morning and midday are the best times for higher fiber, mineral-rich vegetables because your digestive fire and insulin sensitivity are strongest then. In the evening, lighter, cooked vegetables reduce bloating, improve sleep, and prevent nighttime blood pressure spikes. For those practicing intermittent fasting, the first meal after a fast should favor gentle, cooked vegetables like zucchini, carrots, or bok choy to avoid overwhelming the digestive lining. Now, let us talk about combination. Nature designed foods to work in synergy, but modern habits often separate them. When you eat vegetables with healthy fats, olive oil, avocado, or nuts, you increase absorption of fat-soluble nutrients such as vitamin K and carotenoids. Adding a squeeze of lemon or vinegar lowers the meal's glycemic impact and aids mineral absorption. On the other hand, combining high-oxalate vegetables with large amounts of fruit or juice can spike blood sugar and drive calcium into the wrong tissues. Here is a simple whiteboard-style analogy. Imagine your arteries as flexible rubber tubes coated with a protective lining. When meals are balanced with healthy fats, minerals, and antioxidants, that lining stays smooth. When meals are rushed, unbalanced, or overloaded with raw compounds, that lining becomes irritated, inflamed, and sticky. Over time, sticky arteries attract platelets, which can lead to clots or blockages, the very events we are trying to prevent. One final preparation insight concerns temperature. Cold, raw salads can constrict blood vessels in some older adults, especially in colder climates. Warm, cooked vegetables tend to relax circulation. This small adjustment, eating your greens warm, can make a surprising difference in how your body handles blood flow and digestion. So the preparation paradox is not about fear or restriction. It is about mastery, using cooking, timing, and combination as tools to unlock each food's healing potential. When you start thinking this way, your kitchen becomes your most powerful pharmacy. In the next and final section, we will bring everything together: the oxalates, the nitrates, the vitamins, the minerals, and the preparation principles, and end with a clear roadmap to protect your brain and arteries for the decades ahead. We began this journey with a simple, unsettling question. Can certain vegetables raise your stroke risk overnight? At first glance, that sounds alarming, even contradictory to everything we have ever been taught about nutrition. But now, as we have walked through the physiology, chemistry, and context behind it, you can see the deeper truth. It is not the vegetables themselves that pose danger. It is how they interact with an aging metabolism, slower kidney function, medication use, and changes in vascular resilience. Understanding this turns confusion into clarity and fear into mastery.